The caller at 307. I live alone in a small apartment, and it started with a single phone call at 3:07 a.m. The line silent except for a faint breathing that wasn't mine. I ignored it the first night, thinking it was a wrong number, but the next night, the same time, the call returned, deeper, deliberate, almost impatient. My voicemail was filled with static, and when I listened, I could hear whispers repeating my name in a voice I didn't recognize. The third night, my phone rang while I was showering. Water dripping, soap in my eyes, I froze as the voice said, "I see you." I ran to grab the phone, but the call ended before I could answer, leaving an icy fear that crawled up my spine and lingered all day. I checked my contacts, my call logs, and even my service provider, but there was no record of the numbers, no trace of the calls at all. Then objects in my apartment began to move subtly. My keys on the counter, my coffee mug shifted just enough to notice, always before the calls. I recorded the next call, and when I played it back, the voice was clearer, saying, "You can't hide, not from me," with a strange guttural clarity. I tried changing my number, but the first call came through immediately after the carrier confirmed the switch, arriving at the same cursed hour of 3:07 a.m. I asked neighbors if they heard anything. One elderly woman whispered that my building had a history of unexplained deaths at that hour. People vanish quietly, never fully gone. I began sleeping with the lights on, my phone in hand, waiting for the call, heart hammering, ears straining for the faintest whisper behind the walls. Each night, the calls grew longer, the voice more patient, almost conversational, asking questions about my life, my habits, even my friends, probing as if gathering something. I woke one night to my phone ringing on the counter, though I had placed it across the room. The ringtone itself was distorted, warping my own alarm tone. When I picked it up, the voice whispered, "You forgot me last night," and a chill spread from my chest to my fingertips, freezing my blood in place. I tried recording it on video, hoping to capture proof, but the camera showed only me staring at a blank screen, wide-eyed, while the sound played clearly through the speakers. I contacted a friend for help. She came over and left trembling, claiming she felt someone brush past her in the hallway, though no one else was there. The apartment began to feel alive. The walls seemed to lean closer when I slept, the shadows stretching unnaturally, almost forming shapes that mirrored the voice's words. I marked the time on my calendar, the calls coming like clockwork, always at 3:07 a.m., the whisper growing more confident, more insistent, as if testing boundaries. One night, the call lasted over an hour. The voice laughed softly, a dry, rattling sound that seemed to vibrate through the floorboards themselves. I tried staying elsewhere, a friend's apartment, but my phone rang anyway, the same voice on the line saying, "You can't leave, not yet, not until I'm done." I went to the police, but they could find no number, no signal, no record of the calls, only the terrified look in my eyes and the trembling in my hands. I unplugged my phone completely, but the next night, a vibration from the air itself, or something unseen, made my bedroom table buzz, a distorted ringtone echoing faintly. I tried ignoring it, sleeping in another room, but the whispers came through every device, every speaker, even when turned off, repeating my routines, my fears, my secrets. I began documenting everything, but the patterns made no sense. The calls were not random, yet no logical explanation could explain the precision or the knowledge of my life. Friends stopped visiting. Even they admitted to hearing whispers in the background during video calls, faint enough to creep their skin, yet too vague to prove. The laughter became more sinister, almost sentient, teasing me, knowing me, waiting until my defenses were weakest, striking when I was alone and most vulnerable. I noticed shadows forming shapes near my bed during the calls, tall, elongated, leaning toward me, yet dissipating instantly when I tried to photograph them. I considered moving far away, changing my identity, but even researching new apartments, the same time appeared on clocks. My phone buzzed remotely, as if following me. I began writing everything down, hoping to exorcise the fear, but the voice read my notes before I could even speak them aloud, whispering comments, mocking my every plan. One night, I screamed into the phone, demanding it stop, and the laughter stopped instantly, replaced by silence, but I knew the quiet was far worse than any sound. I no longer sleep. I keep lights on, doors locked, devices off, yet I feel the presence, patient, observing, knowing the hour is approaching, and it will call again. I've accepted that this voice will not stop, and perhaps it doesn't want to. Its hunger is not for terror alone, but for attention, for recognition, for me to know I am being watched. And so I write this, a warning, a confession, hoping that somewhere, someone else will hear it and understand, because I fear what happens if no one ever answers at 3:07 a.m. The reflection in the basement. When I bought the old farmhouse, the realtor warned me the basement hadn't been used in decades, but I laughed it off, eager to explore my new home. The first night, I saw movement in the basement window from my kitchen, a dark figure staring up at me, yet the door was locked and no one was outside. Curiosity got the better of me, and I descended the narrow stairs, flashlight in hand, every step echoing in the damp, musty air. The basement smelled faintly of wet earth and something else, metallic, like old blood, and I shivered despite the summer heat. At the far corner, I noticed a full-length mirror, dusty and cracked, leaning against the wall, though I hadn't seen it in the walkthrough. My reflection stared back, but something was off. It didn't mimic my movements perfectly, sometimes lagging a second, sometimes smiling when I wasn't. I reached out, fingers grazing the glass, and the reflection raised a hand of its own, though mine hadn't moved yet, mirroring me too deliberately. I stumbled back, heart racing, and the reflection winked, as if mocking my fear, a subtle gesture that made my blood run cold. I tried to cover it, draping an old sheet, but when I returned the next day, the mirror was uncovered, smudged with handprints that weren't mine. The nights became restless. I could hear faint whispers from the basement, low murmurs speaking in a language I almost recognized, yet couldn't comprehend. One evening, I heard my own voice echoing from below, repeating secrets I had never spoken aloud, each word twisting into a distorted cadence. I considered leaving the mirror behind, but when I turned my back for a moment, it appeared facing me, as if it had moved on its own. I set up a camera, but the footage was black whenever I pointed it at the mirror, only showing a faint shimmer of movement at its edges. Shadows began stretching unnaturally in the basement, elongating toward me, then retreating when I blinked, always just beyond clear sight. I tried inviting friends over, but each refused to enter the basement, claiming they felt a presence watching them, their skin crawling despite the lack of visible threats. I began speaking to the reflection, asking questions, and it answered, slowly, one word at a time, its voice hollow, echoing from inside the glass. The more I ignored it, the louder the whispers became, seeping into my bedroom, my dreams, following me through hallways, even when the basement door was closed. One night, I woke to find the mirror in my bedroom, though I had left it in the basement, standing upright and shimmering faintly in the moonlight. It spoke my name softly, coaxing, as if inviting me to step closer, promising secrets and knowledge I didn't want but couldn't resist. I reached out, trembling, and the glass rippled under my fingers, like water, my own reflection grinning wickedly back at me. Suddenly, I felt myself pulled forward, my body trembling as if the mirror was drawing me in, my reflection pushing back with equal force. I tore away, stumbling into the hall, and the mirror fell silently, its surface returning to normal, yet I could feel it still observing, patient and hungry. I tried covering it again, this time with heavy blankets, yet the faint shimmer returned each morning, as if sunlight revealed something lurking beneath. I began sleeping elsewhere in the house, avoiding the basement entirely, but my dreams were haunted by the reflection, speaking, laughing, mocking my every move. I once dared to film it on my phone. The playback showed me standing alone, yet in the corner of the frame, a shadowy figure waved, unseen while I recorded. The mirror began appearing in places I had not moved it, behind doors, leaning against walls, always reflecting me, but never quite accurately, always with subtle differences. I spoke to a local historian who warned me the farmhouse had a history of occult experiments, and mirrors had been used as gateways to observe the living. I tried destroying it, smashing it with a hammer, yet the shards reassembled by morning, pristine, as if mocking my attempt at control. One evening, I saw a figure step out from the mirror, just for a moment, vanishing when I blinked, leaving the faintest cold imprint on my skin. I realized the reflection was not just an image. It was alive, patient, feeding on my fear, learning me, waiting for the moment I let my guard down. I now avoid the basement entirely, but I feel it everywhere, the mirror's influence creeping, subtle, in shadows, in reflections, in glimpses of myself I no longer recognize. Sometimes when I pass any mirror, I swear it smiles at me, knowing, waiting, reminding me the reflection is never gone, and it always remembers. And I understand now that some things don't remain trapped in glass, they follow you, patient and silent, until you belong to the reflection as much as it belongs to you. The Man Under the Overpass. I used to walk home after my late shift, cutting under the old highway overpass because it saved 10 minutes, even though everyone in town warned me not to. The first time I heard him, it sounded like a soft cough beneath the concrete, echoing strangely, as if someone was hiding in the shadows just out of sight. I ignored it, thinking it was a homeless guy or an animal. But the next night, I heard it again closer, almost following me as I walked. By the third night, I could hear footsteps matching my pace, too deliberate to be coincidence, scraping lightly against gravel, despite me seeing no one around. I quickened my pace, heart pounding, and as I passed the darkest section of the underpass, I heard breathing deep, ragged, and inches behind me. I spun around, flashlight on my phone shaking, but the beam revealed only cracked concrete and stale graffiti stretching across the blackened walls. Then I noticed something wrong with the shadows. One was too tall, slightly shifting, as if something was standing just beyond the light's reach. The next night, I brought pepper spray, telling myself I was being paranoid, yet my steps felt heavier as I neared the overpass, dread sinking deep. Halfway through, the footsteps started again, slow at first, then perfectly synced with mine, stopping whenever I stopped, waiting when I hesitated. I whispered, "Who's there?" But the only answer was a low hum, vibrating through the concrete pillars, almost like a voice buried under layers of stone. When I got home, my front door was scratched, long thin marks trailing downward, like fingers dragging slowly across the wood, though no one else had a key. I changed my route, walking the longer, safer path through town, but even there, I heard faint footsteps behind me, familiar, patient, echoing the same rhythm. One night, I saw him reflected in a store window, a tall figure standing behind me, motionless, yet when I turned, the street was empty. I tried filming my walks, but every time I passed near the overpass, the footage glitched, turning into static or freezing mid-step, erasing anything behind me. The police dismissed me after a quick patrol, claiming no reports of suspicious activity, and advised I get more sleep, which felt like a cruel joke. I started hearing him in my apartment, at night a slow dragging sound across the floor, as if he knew exactly where my bedroom was. I barricaded the door with furniture, but around 3 a.m., the dragging stopped right outside it, followed by soft tapping, almost impatient. The next morning, All the dishes in my kitchen were neatly stacked on the floor, arranged in a circle, my name scratched faintly into the tile. I decided to confront whatever it was and return to the overpass before sunset, gripping a flashlight and convincing myself this nightmare needed ending. The air felt colder beneath the structure, as if sunlight couldn't reach there anymore, and the silence pressed against my ears until I could hear my heartbeat. I called out, demanding he show himself, expecting nothing, yet the concrete vibrated beneath my feet, followed by a slow, deliberate exhale behind me. My flashlight flickered, revealing a shape tall enough to graze the underside of the overpass, its limbs wrong, elongated, its head bending slightly toward me. I froze as it whispered my name, the sound like gravel grinding in a throat, each syllable dripping with something almost curious. It stepped forward, and the shadows swallowed its details, leaving only its height and the sense that it had been watching me far longer than I realized. I ran, sprinting until my lungs burned, refusing to look back, yet the sound of its footsteps echoed behind me with unnatural precision. When I reached home, every light was on, though I turned them off, and my bedroom window was open, curtains fluttering as if someone had just entered. I haven't slept since. Every hallway reflection shows a shape behind me, always a step away, always taller than the frame can fully capture. The dragging sound in my apartment grows louder each night, pacing back and forth, learning the space, knowing that I have nowhere left to run. I've stopped walking anywhere after dark, but I still hear him beneath the overpass when I drive by, scraping, waiting, patient as ever. I know eventually he'll stop waiting, and the distance between us will disappear entirely, because things like him don't lose interest. They only get closer. I'm writing this because someone needs to know the truth. Sometimes the thing following you isn't a person. You're just the first one who decided to learn.